Um, and, everybody has their own kind of take on it, those that really know it, although there are obvious common generalities regarding it all. So, okay, without getting too long-winded about this, I just want to make these couple of statements to begin with about this, or about full moon charts in general. The first one is that if the charts could be expressed perfectly at the levels, at the higher levels at which they emanate the energies that are open to them, those that receive it would be far more advanced than what we currently are. So this first statement I've got here is it's not the energy available that makes for an enlightened living or some form of enlightenment amongst us, but it's the capacity of the entity receiving that energy to be able to translate it at whatever level that being, creature, plant, rock, whatever it may be, is receiving it. And I think it'll become quite evident, the statement becomes quite evident tonight as I'll present maybe two parts of the chart. The one that would normally be covered by what's called mundane astrology, that is the astrology of world events, where things are very ordinary and everyday, and the esoteric interpretation, which is aligned with it, but really quite different. So in keeping that in mind, the chart is a snapshot, and like a photo tells a story. So the second point is that we only, the chart might kind of represent something which is, wonderful, that, we can kind of think can snap into, manifestation immediately. But in point of fact, it's just like looking at something in a particular time frame, and where there are, countless events that have kind of brought it to where it currently is, and there'll be countless events afterwards which takes it on. So I believe this particular chart has, because it has a strong Uranian influence, is representing the birth of an archetype, the archetype being one of the principal kind of themes that Uranus presents. So when I'm talking about an archetypal presentation, I'm not just talking about an idea, I'm talking about something which has a revolutionary concept behind it, such that it changes the nature of the way that humanity will perceive things. And this is something along the lines of something like a Copernicus or the development of the internet. It has a transformative effect over time, over generations of people. It's not just an idea that we pick up and we change something with it. So what I'm suggesting, I suppose, with this particular full moon, because the Uranian influence is so strong, that there is an archetype working which has a potent Aquarian theme to it overall, which is seeking over a long period of time, maybe decades, maybe centuries, to effect a transformation about how we actually start to work more towards a group cooperative endeavour where people's individual talents can be recognised and where they can be expressed and included within a greater context under a more general sort of humanitarian progressive purpose. So, okay, moving on to the Leo full moon, or Leo full moons in general. This is a quote from Esoteric Astrology, page 299. DK is saying here that August, which is ruled by Leo, is the month of the dog star, Sirius, which thus brings Sirius into close relation to Leo. Leo, in the cosmic sense, is ruled by Sirius. Sirius is the home of the greater lodge to which our fifth initiation admits a man and to which it brings him as a humble disciple. Later, when the New World religion is founded and is working, we shall find that the major monthly festival in August held at the time of the full moon will be dedicated to the task of making contact via the hierarchy with the Sirian force. So this Sirian force, you may be acquainted or be aware of the concept that our solar logos is the personality to a greater logos, which is the logos of Sirius. So in a sense, so during this full moon, we have an increased emphasis of the light and energy power force from Sirius being channeled through the solar logos and then coming through us, all via the sign Leo as well. This, because of this, I'll put down here in this point that arguably this is the most light-filled full moon, as we're seeing light from the Sirian system, the Leo constellation, and on 3 levels directly from the sun itself. But what I mean by the 3 levels is that Leo is ruled by the sun at a personality level, at a soul level, and at a spiritual level. So I've put this little point before it that I believe the Sirian festival is like a 4th major festival, like, you know, the Vesak or Easter or a Sala. So this is kind of like in a sense, this festival is perhaps the most important one because the Leo theme is really to bring about an increased, enhanced sense of consciousness. Now that consciousness is self-directed. It comes into play to make us more more self-aware. Now this primarily is personalities to begin with. But as time unfolds and we evolve, then that consciousness becomes the consciousness of the soul within us. And eventually, when the soul goes through its own transformation, we become more spiritualized, and then we become eventually monadically conscious. It's through Sirius that is the soul to our sun, such as Venus is to the Earth. And the importance of Sirius is also that 80% of human monads, when they reach the 6th initiation, take the path to Sirius upon leaving this system. So of the 7 paths, Sirius is definitely the popular choice. Okay. The Leo for one is particularly pertinent to the spiritual evolutionary development of our current 5th race. And the 5th sub-race via this number 5. So Leo is the 5th sign and is a principal channel of the 5th ray of science and knowledge. There is thus an association through Leo with the concepts of individuality, concrete reasoning, and the development of personality, with the 5th mental plane upon which the soul is found and the specific line of development for this root race. Okay. Right. There's another quote here from DK relating Leo to the birth of mind. So the quote is here: I earlier gave a hint upon which definite astrological computation could be based when I gave the time of the great approach of the hierarchy to our planetary manifestation, when individuation took place and the 4th kingdom in nature appeared. I placed that stupendous event as happening 21,688,345 years ago. Okay, give or take. At that time, the sun was in Leo. The process then initiated upon the physical plane and producing outer physical events took approximately 5,000 years to mature, and the sun was in Gemini when the final crisis of individualization took place, and the door was then closed upon the animal kingdom. Page 64, Esoteric Astrology. Okay. I won't belabor this point too much. I'm kind of aware of the time and I'm probably talking a little bit quickly. So um, suffice it to say that the mind, the soul, and the divine will and light are all intimately mixed with Leo, meaning that solar divinity is seeking to express itself through the mind and soul of humanity. And humanity is evolving along those lines that will take it through the influence of that sign on its journey to ever deepening and ever broadening experiences of conscious self-awareness, either self with a small s or self with a big S. The DK also states there is no true personality until an individual can think and by implication plan and direct his or her life. Now, this, I just want to say too that I can make this presentation available to you. I'll give it to Nicole and she can send it on to you if any of you want it. So don't fear that we're kind of missing out on stuff. This point is also an important feature of Leo. It's the concept of light and will. DK talks about Leo being associated with the will to illumine and the will to rule. The will to illumine is a drive towards self-knowledge, self-perception, and a positive intellect. The will to rule with its desire to dominate, eventually leading to self-mastery and control of the personality. The full moon of Leo elicits its opposite sign, Aquarius. Aquarius is also a channel for the fifth ray and its devic hierarchy, which rules the dense physical plane. Thus, at the time of the Leo and Aquarius full moons, we have the highest and the lowest planes connected, with the potential of divine light being carried into the densest atomic substance and the potential of elevation of that substance to its most refined. And I believe this is somewhat connected. Obviously, this is kind of connected with ray 7, which Uranus is a prime channel of, and the mantra of the seventh ray, the highest and the lowest meet. Uranus is a prime channel for the seventh ray of ceremonial law and order. With the current waxing of the seventh ray energy combined with the influence of the Aquarian age, it could be said that the purpose over the next few thousand years, in particular, is to physicalize divine law, making possible an unimpeded flow of divine will on earth, allowing each individual soul in incarnation to express its soul intent and gifts in a group context and to distribute that generally to those open to receive. In a small way, each of these full moons, and especially Leo, is an example of an ongoing process of blending and synthesizing those two signs that will continue through the Aquarian age over the next 25,000 years. Okay, so the current full moon chart. This chart strongly emphasizes the approach of hierarchy to humanity and the ability of humanity and the new group of world servers to successfully make contact with the masters. That's the potential of the chart. Whether it can live up to its potential depends largely on people like us. Why does the chart indicate this? Okay, so let's have a look. Oh, actually, I'll just go through this first. The fifth mental plane is strongly emphasized at the Syrian Leo full moon, which corresponds with the fifth initiation the initiation that makes one a master. So the number 5, the sign Leo, the idea of the masters and so forth are all kind of common Leo themes and Leonine themes, and particularly relevant at the full moon. What makes it strongly pronounced in this case is Aquarius. Aquarius is a sign of hierarchy, indicates a planetary logoic purpose. This is both the ascendant and the moon sign in this chart. So I'll just show you the chart. So here you can see there's our sun in Leo in the 7th house. This chart is set for Greenwich Universal Time at 6:25 p.m. today. Notice the ascendant is Aquarius here, and the moon is obviously in Aquarius because it's the full moon. So the moon being in this position also represents groundedness, and this is always a potential with this full moon. What makes it a more direct purpose is the fact that the ascendant, representing the soul's purpose and intent in the chart, is also in the sign Aquarius. Because of this, I believe there's more intent, a greater intent to manifest, to physicalize. The chart also, importantly, both the moon and the sun are square to the planet Uranus down here, which is primarily a channel for the 7th ray, rules both the moon and the sun, the moon on an orthodox level and on a hierarchical level, and the sun on a hierarchical level. So Aquarius itself is a sign of the spiritual hierarchy. So we have here, and Uranus is in the sign Taurus, so we have a strong, what I believe, a strong manifesting quality in potential. Where Uranus is placed is in the 3rd house. So I think, at least in our meditations tonight, there should be some good results that come from this in terms of being able to pick up on various perhaps symbols, messages, ideas, insights that can further what I'm interpreting as the externalization process, the ongoing externalization process. Importantly as well, Jupiter, which conjuncts Mars here in the sign Gemini, in the 4th house. Jupiter is the esoteric ruler of Aquarius and is also associated with Leo on an orthodox level as the sun veils Jupiter. So being placed in the 4th house, the 4th house is esoterically the house of the ashram and is also the place for concretization, birth, manifestation, the forming of the home. That it happens to be Jupiter, and both Aquarius and Leo are associated with the 2nd ray, and Jupiter is also one of the prime 2nd ray planets. Is kind of, I would consider this to be sort of a 2nd ray ashram that will be seeking manifestation or continuing manifestation. There is an interesting thing to do with Aquarius and Gemini. Both these signs rule the United States of America. So I'm kind of picking that America is maybe the central place where this manifestation may take place. Of course, there are other countries, the local charts, etc., where these signs are in rulership as well. Okay. So that's what I'm thinking is perhaps going on with this. Of course, wherever you happen to be in the world, you're going to have a different ascendant. The importance of that particular chart is that you've kind of got something which has a universal overriding theme that's governing the planet. not just local kind of conditions. So parts of the world, for example, where Leo may be the ascendant, then there will be sort of a strong emphasis on identity, on leadership. Where Cancer is rising, for example, then the Syrian energy will be particularly strong on that initial quote that I had up there about the influence of the Leo full moon with Sirius becomes quite, strong at that point for those people meditating in those areas. Okay. And these are the things I've just really discussed. The chart has a number of other features. For example, there are no planets in cardinal signs in the chart. There are also 4 planets retrograde in the chart, and there are 7 planets that are in signs of fall or detriment. Now, all these features have significance both in an orthodox sense and an esoteric sense, because there is an emphasis on sustainability, holding an inner development, inner work. Any action or doing that takes place under the auspice of this particular chart becomes more unpredictable and more haphazard in its expression. There's an emphasis on inner values, holding, sustaining energy and maintaining presence, on being rather than doing. 4 retrogrades enhance the lack of cardinal signs as planetary energy is moving inwards, not outwards. With many planets in fall, planetary energies have to work indirectly in ways that are unfamiliar and can be challenging, often producing, where they do, incongruous results. The one example of this might be is the Mercury in Leo in the chart, which is, it's in a sign of fall, and its Mercury is also retrograde. So it's also combust, being very strongly conjunct the Sun. It means the Sun overwhelms Mercury. The mental forces are overwhelmed by ego. So on an orthodox level, thinking is routed by the desire, particularly those in positions of leadership, to assert themselves and to dominate the situations. So reason then kind of goes out the window somewhat. So Mercury's capacity to function is hampered by this. From an esoteric angle, however, it allows a greater ability for inner focus and a capacity to become more self-aware. Okay, the situation of this chart is highly stressful in the lower 3 worlds, but is ideal esoterically for stopping external activities and sustaining internal states. Okay, I'll just go through this. Okay, I've spoken about the stuff. Okay. I just wanted to add that since the Second World War, we have seen a tremendous stimulation of the mineral kingdom. The moon in esoteric astrology has a lot to do with elemental lives, what we might kind of think of in modern parlance as the chemistry, the atomic structures of things, and also on a quantum level as well. So since the Second World War, we've seen a tremendous stimulation of the mineral kingdom, its elevation to the extent that it's on the verge of sentiency. That is, we kind of look at things like internet and AI, etc. And there have been countless other technological advances across all fields of human endeavour, where machines have replaced human labour, essentially. The Sun in Leo is concerned with creative self-expression, self-awareness, and making conscious connection with the soul to shift consciousness, it is a potential to make the marriage in the heavens soul infusion via an opening of the arch in the center. So that's the sun's placement in its 7th house. Okay. The difficulty on the physical level is the stimulation of the personalities of the world leaders with their recent tendencies towards dictatorship. So there's, on an orthodox level, this chart. Yeah, okay. So Leo here is kind of representative of leadership. This leadership, the sun is dominant and the sun is the most powerful planet in the chart. In terms of where it's living in the 7th house, this is the house of relationship. In a political sense, we're kind of talking about political relationships and the relationships amongst the various leaders of the world. There's a lot of pressure. The sun is not is receiving a lot of difficult aspects in the chart, namely the square from Uranus, the inconjunct from Neptune, and the inconjunct from Pluto. And opposed to that, of course, is the moon at this time, which is more to do with, again, if we kind of relate this to the hierarchy, it's hierarchical purpose, stimulating the aspirations and desires of the human race generally, or the people that are governed. And so we've got the leaders opposing those that they govern. And through this emphasis of dictatorial attitudes, the negative side of Leo, principally kind of coming through with Pluto, which are destructive forces, challenging forces, and deception, Neptune, not to mention erratic and unpredictable behavior. The people that are then suffering because of this. So over at least the period of this full moon and through the next few weeks, I don't see much change with this. It's these sort of conditions are sort of ongoing. And we need to be aware too that dictatorship is not just maybe from a Western point of view, looking at the major perpetrators on the planet. We also need to look at the concept of dictatorship within Western countries themselves and the influence that's had on the people and the suffering that's been brought from it. The issue, another issue here, is the Saturn opposing Venus, squaring the Jupiter-Mars. It's Jupiter-Mars on an ordinary level is inflammatory, and in the 4th house, it really talks about things like civil disturbance and an inability to control the astral nature, again resulting in degrees of suffering amongst the general population. All right. So probably further to looking about Jupiter. As the esoteric ruler of the ascendant, the second ray ashram is seeking to ground itself. The USA, with its Aquarian and Geminian influences, is possibly where the grounding may take place. Jupiter conjunct Mars is seeking to raise the energy of the country's solar plexus to the heart and to end divisiveness, which is obviously a very Geminian feature, and civil war through greater inclusiveness. Okay. Yeah, this is probably on a slightly not lighter note. During the month of Leo, we've had the World Olympic Games, and Jupiter is conjunct Mars, which is also a symbol of sport and sporting achievements and ceremonies and all the rest of it that go with the Olympic Games. it's just interesting to note that's taken place all through that month. Okay, I've spoken about that Uranus stuff, so I won't focus too much on that. I know I'm going over time. Apologies for this. I suppose as a, just look at, all right, probably looking at the implications of that focus of that Uranus as part of that T-square with the sun and the moon. And in the application of spiritual principles, it promises to orient sustainability with new, efficient, non-pollutant solutions and innovations in agriculture and the environment. It also suggests a paradigm for a new form of economics to replace elitist economics, which have dominated basically the world situation for a couple hundred years. Uranus is placed in the third house with the esoteric ruler Jupiter and Gemini. Education, connecting communities of freedom-loving individuals, sharing resources and information, and encouraging innovation and communication. Networking is a key purpose of this chart. Okay, I think perhaps in the process, maybe over the next few days, some of the questions you can ask yourself, if you will, is where are you not free? Where do you experience confinement or being trapped by situations you may find yourself in? Are you able to change this? And if so, how could you do it? From the point of view of the externalization process, which I think is key in the chart, what is your involvement in that process, and how can you enhance it? Particularly over the next 2 weeks, maybe look for sudden, unexpected intuitions, producing insights, especially regarding your connections to your inner ashrams and any purposes involved in making that ashram more tangible in everyday life. But ponder on the disruptions in time and space. Uranus, it is said that hierarchy is of the future. So if it is approximating, a closer connection with humanity, it probably means there are probably will experience somewhere on the planet distortions of time and space. So be on the lookout and look for those sorts of things and maybe possible effects of this particular chart. Okay, that's it. Gone over time. Only. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Daryl. Perhaps we might invite our members here to voice any questions that they may have or share anything that triggered something in them while you were presenting these aspects.
Daryl?
Yeah.
Could I? Hi, it's Catherine. Could I ask you a question about your comment about 80%
Yeah.
of the masters take the path to Sirius? Do you have any idea why?
No. Simple answer to that is no. I suspect it's got to do with a line of least resistance. A majority of the comment is that it's for further mental development. So presumably, okay, well, here's my guess. The logos of this particular system is astrally polarized and is seeking mental development. By that, it probably means the majority of units, monadic units within this system, are also emotionally polarized. So I would suspect then that you know, the path to Sirius is a path of further mental training. So
Okay.
I would say that's probably why, if that would be my take on it anyway.
Yes, thank you.
That's all right.
I'm wondering if I might ask a question.
Susie?
Yeah, I happen to notice, I'm not sure if it has any significance, but the asteroid Vesta is, I think, what they call Cassini, or very, very close to the sun there.
Yeah, it is.
And yeah.
I suspect it will have to do, the thing I didn't really kind of mention too much was the yod that's actually involved with this, involving Pluto, Neptune, and the Sun.
Yeah.
And by extension Mercury and Vesta as well, of course. I think this might manifest in a couple of different ways, and one is I think a greater commitment, because Vesta has a lot to do with commitment by those leaders on the paths that they've already chosen. So it will strengthen, I think, a willfulness amongst those that will respond to it in that way. For others, under the influence of the yod and the rest of it, I think there will be perhaps falls. No, I wouldn't necessarily, I hesitate to kind of think of, you know, potential spiritual awakenings, which could happen with a Sun Vesta placement. There is a kind of a commitment to an ideal, I think, that Vesta also represents as well.
Yeah, preservation of something, right? Yeah.
But that Pluto-Neptune thing also kind of suggests a fated transformation of some sort. So I think
being in the eighth house would reinforce that too, wouldn't it?
Yeah.
The eighth house. Yeah.
Yeah.
And I was also wondering, in association with that I don't know, Daryl, do you ever work with the Septile series, the Fated series? Because I was looking at the aspect with Pluto, and it's kind of close there to like what they call the triseptile, right? Where the Fated working out of something.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. Thank you so much.
That's all right. Thank you.
Daryl, excuse me. I'd like to ask a question that's kind of rooted in something that you said that's been coming through a lot during this Lionsgate portal, the shift from doing into being.
Yep.
Which you mentioned briefly.
Yep.
And I have been pondering on that a lot, actually. And this whole concept of, you know, Leo, the law of Regulus that Alice Bailey refers to, and Aquarius, the law of Cephas, and that we're in this time now where the nodes are actually shifting on the eclipses from the Aries Libra axis to the Virgo Pisces axis.
Yeah.
And thinking also of the fact that you know, this whole concept of service that might be associated with that, and that we now have a candidate running for president of the United States. I think she was born with her Pluto in Virgo, that part of that generation. That also was one of the first generations to be associated, really grew up with computer and technology.
Yeah.
And so I ask all of that as a roundabout way of saying, you know, she's definitely picked a running mate that has a service background. So as far as, I guess, that shift that happens January 11th of 2025, what do you see as being, you know, the esoteric significance of what it means for us as far as our work, our service, and our healing work that we do, and also this whole sort of feeling there's a generational shift that's happening right now.
Okay. What do I think of that? Boy, I don't know what to think of that. Sorry. Look, No, I really don't know what to think of that. The it's kind of questions, I suppose, of it's not just a matter, I guess, of what hierarchy may have in mind. Yes, I think, you know, the Pluto in Virgo generation has that sort of has to go through the various issues that have got to do with a variety of critical and transformative events in their lives that make or hopefully increase their sort of sensitivity and their desire to be of greater benefit to others. How that translates in terms of American politics and hence, you know, the global effect. I don't know. Ideally, of course, I think it gets back to my original point, I guess. It really depends on the quality of reception. It's not really a matter of can a person bring about significant change. It's a matter of the capacity to respond to what they have and to be able to do something with that. And I think it's just I really don't know in the soul or the essence of the beings of these beings, these people, what the intent is. I've not actually kind of had a deep look at the charts involved, or whatever, to get an idea of maybe what might be going on there. I don't know. Sorry, can't answer your question any better.
No, it's not. It's just a way of sort of like conceptualizing these movements. I'm actually part of that Pluto and Virgo generation,
yeah.
And it's also we're also approaching our Saturn return.
Yeah.
And so as we shift into sort of the new age, you know, this Aquarian model, it's interesting the energetics that this particular generation is being subjected to as they start to get into the point on the path where they take leadership positions. And you mentioned about this shifting change in leadership as well.
Yeah.
That's going on. So I just, you know, and the notion of energetically moving from this with technology, with the assistance of technology, from this doing to being, you know, we're going to have a higher expression. So it's just maybe there is no answer, but just you know, just to try to get your thoughts on those observations.
Well, I think generally speaking, I mean, you know, the world's, it's no secret the world's, you know, gone through a terrible time in the last few years in particular. And we're still in some sort of, you know, process of suffering, and the suffering is kind of continuing all over the place. That's, as I understand it, that's largely been through the triple conjunction in 2020 with Pluto, Saturn, and Jupiter in Capricorn. Although Pluto in Capricorn has been a dog of a kind of placement for many, many years. One of the things that I think is perhaps a light on this is our friend Uranus, who will enter Gemini next year. And there'll be a trine then operating between Pluto and Uranus. Historically, these have been periods when humanity has actually flourished more, when it's been at its best. So I would say that perhaps this may reflect itself on a global scale, as those people in power having a more liberal attitude, or that the people, if you know there's any success with this stimulation of the people here coming from the ascendant to the moon, the people may have more success in actually electing or having leaders that will actually be responsive to them, and have a better chance of, you know, providing those sort of programs, whatever, that will make things better for us all. But, you know, that's a hope. Who knows?
Daryl, I would hate to interrupt.
Yeah.
The discussion is very interesting, and I can see that our members are eager to
Go to
ask
meditation.
more questions.
Oh, okay.
But I think it's time for us to wrap up. And thank you so much for your presentation, Daryl. And friends, if you do have questions for Daryl, please, I'm sure that he won't mind, send me the questions and I'll pass it on. Or Daryl, perhaps if you can put in the chat your email address, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Asking, receiving questions from the group, that would be great.
Yeah.
Thank you again, Daryl, for that beautiful presentation. Very informative, and yes, lots to think about. And thank you, friends, for all your questions and your comments. Some of it went above my head, but it made sense to you, and that's great. All right, friends.